Prince Andrew was left, bereft and tearful, when Charles told him he would never return to royal duties. Duke's meeting with older brother was emotional and fraught, with those close to him becoming concerned for his well-being. The Duke of York's hopes of returning to public life were dashed at a one-on-one meeting with his older brother that an insider has described as emotional and fraught. Andrew is said to have been blindsided by the outcome of the private meeting, held at Charles's Birkhall estate in Scotland, just days before the Queen's death. He believes he could still be of value as a working member of the royal family despite his association with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and has lobbied strenuously to resume his former roles. He is utterly bereft. He always believed there was a way back. There will be further evidence of Andrew's isolation, when he will be absent from the Remembrance Day service at the cenotaph as, stripped of his official duties, he no longer has a role to play. His status has also been diminished following the death of the Queen, which robbed Andrew not only of his mother but his chief supporter. Andrew was extremely close to the Queen and tried to raise the issue of his return to public life many times with her. On some occasions she would say mildly conciliatory things, but most of the time she would change the subject immediately to avoid talking about it. It is understood that most senior figures in the royal family had thought the matter settled, that there was no way back. Yet this had not been Andrew's understanding. Naive as it may sound, he always had hopes of regaining his position as a senior royal. At the meeting, Charles told him that he can go off and have a good life, a nice life, but that his public life as a royal is at an end. He was told, "You have to accept this." Andrew, 62, was stripped of his military affiliations and royal patronages in January after he lost his bid to quash a civil lawsuit in America brought by Epstein's former sex slave Virginia Giuffre, who claimed she had been forced to have sex with the Duke. The Duke vehemently denied her claims, but, at the time, Buckingham Palace had said that the decision to strip Andrew of his titles was made by the late Queen. He also lost his right to be addressed as His Royal Highness in an official capacity. The Duke settled the civil case in February for a reported £12 million without accepting liability, and had believed this would allow him to return to royal duties. He continues to strenuously deny any wrongdoing. Until the face-to-face meeting with his brother, Andrew believed that there was a way back, that somehow he could be rehabilitated and play a role in the firm going forward. He came out of the meeting shaken. He is still in shock. He is completely lost and very depressed. It is understood that Prince Andrew was later reduced to tears again when, in a separate conversation, he was informed he would be barred from wearing a military uniform at his mother's funeral. Plans now appear to be afoot to add his siblings Princess Anne and Prince Edward to the list of councillors of state, the senior royals who can deputize for the monarch if needed. If they are promoted through a change in the Regency Act, it would further sideline Andrew and Harry who, as the fifth and eighth in line, are technically closer to the throne but no longer carry out any official royal duties. Andrew is being comforted by ex-wife Sarah Ferguson and his daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. It is understood the princesses held at least one meeting with the king to express concern for their father's well-being and plead a case for his return. But courtiers say there is little sympathy from Prince William or from the Queen Consort, both of whom firmly support Charles's decision. The Queen was said to have been so concerned about Andrew that she showed her support publicly by allowing him to escort her down the aisle at Prince Philip's memorial service in Westminster Abbey in March. Sadly, the image of the Queen on Andrew's arm overshadowed the service. It was all anyone was talking about, and there was uneasiness among senior members of the family about the Queen's decision, but she insisted. Andrew now feels misled by close relatives and blames certain courtiers for ushering him down a cul-de-sac and, he believes, briefing against him. He cannot comprehend there is no place for him in public life. He has a support system, but he is in bad shape. He is finding it hard to process the reality of how life will be from now on. The Duke was barred from wearing his military uniform during the Queen's funeral but was allowed to wear it during the private vigil after Charles took pity on his brother and relented. Since the funeral, the man who was once dubbed Air Miles Andy because of his frequent trips abroad has been confined to his home, Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park. He has occasionally been spotted riding in Windsor Great Park but has become a virtual recluse, according to the source, who adds, he has no idea what the future holds and has no real plans. He is struggling to accept this as the end of the road for him as a royal. It is all he has ever known. The loss of the Queen has also exacerbated his isolation. Until his troubles, he always had the ability to make the late Queen laugh. They were very close and had a warm and loving relationship. There was no awkwardness. Andrew has denied being close to Epstein, who killed himself in jail in August 2019 while awaiting trial on child sex trafficking charges. Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, is currently serving 20 years in a Florida jail after being found guilty last December on child sex trafficking and other charges. In an exclusive interview, 60-year-old Maxwell described Andrew as her dear friend, saying, "I feel so bad for him. I follow what is happening to him. He is paying such a price for the association. I consider him a dear friend. I care about him." Prince Andrew has been accused of not yet carrying out any charity work despite pledging to make amends for his sex abuse scandal. It has been reported that the disgraced Duke of York has instead been playing golf, horse riding and enjoying life at his home, the Royal Lodge. The 62-year-old's royal career ended in disgrace after he was forced to pay millions of pounds in an out-of-court settlement to sex abuse accuser Virginia Giuffre. She claimed he sexually abused her 3 times in 2001 when she was 17 after being trafficked by disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, though Andrew has consistently denied any wrongdoing. The settlement was not an admission of liability, but the Queen's supposedly favorite son was stripped of his royal patronages and honorary military titles. At the time of Andrew's settlement, a statement said that the Duke would show his remorse by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking, and by supporting its victims. However, the latest allegations from the Sun claim that many proposals to go through with charity work have stalled after Buckingham Palace permission was sought. Nigel Cawthorne, author of Prince Andrew, Epstein, Maxwell and the Palace. Surely he can find a charity somewhere in the world that will have him. His reputation cannot get any worse and is a stain on the but doing charity work will take the edge off and show a little bit of contrition. Prince has lost focus after his attempts were regularly blocked. Andrew was further dragged back into the Epstein scandal after the pedophile's conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell hailed the Duke of York as a dear friend. Her bombshell comments in a world-exclusive prison interview. Andrew's denial to a U.S. court that they had been close. Maxwell, who was convicted of helping Epstein abuse teenage girls, failed to deny suggestions that she and Andrew had been a couple, and declared, "I care about him." At one stage Prince Andrew was a patron hundreds of charities and other bodies, but he was stripped of his remaining patronages after the palace said he would not carry out any public duties at the start of the year.